Holy shit, this volume was amazing. From beginning to end, the chapters read like an indie punk playlist. I want to say the genre of the manga itself is kind of like punk rock love. They somehow managed to open the world up wider than ever, yet they're still successful at keeping it with close settings. In this volume, I kind of want to go in a different direction of depth review. When watching shows like South Park or Evangelion or even Family Guy, you notice a writer's hubris in their work, and when reading this volume, I went total analyzation into the new themes and topics given. I could be wrong, but this is how I'm reviewing Volume 3 of Call of the Night. So in the first 4 chapters, we are introduced to a new group of vampires, all under the guise of you either kill or turn a human that you lure, with the sole purpose of reproducing vampires. We get our first taste of actual action. Nazuna rips off the arm of Siri, which she could easily put back on. Kinda cool to actually see their bodies work through this volume, sort of zombie styles, and the inclusion of like bleed, I guess. No one seemingly is going for the kill. We've yet to actually be told how to kill a vampire in this world. I won't go into too much detail of the other vampires, just that the ones I like are the short-haired one and the other blonde Siri. But hopefully we'll get in-depth chapter arcs with each of them like how we later do with Siri. But what we do learn is you only get a year to turn. It definitely adds tension to the main arc, so far being Ko wanting to turn into a vampire. Still unsure if that'll remain the main arc through the whole story, or if the author will want to change it up by, say, 6th or 7th volume. Again, we've recently been introduced to actual action in this world now, alongside being introduced to the actual vampire world slowly. Still think we'll eventually get the juicy details of how Nazuna became a vampire. It almost feels like the group of vampire girls represent the status quo of romance vampire stories we've seen on television and movies. Even with the death and blood and angst, there's still a side of romance and elegance put into the relationship of these stories. With the constant dread of what it's truly like to become a vampire. You lose your humanity, you die, you become bloodlust, etc. And usually the man vampire will shun or deflect all conversation about vampire turning, but being unable to leave because of the romance and love. While Nazuna is the complete opposite of all those attitudes. Sure, hang out with me. Let's enjoy our time in the night. Who needs daylight? If you want to become a vampire, be my guest. With vulgar talk to cover up anything romantic. She's the hubris of the story, and although under it all, it's still the same endgame. She wants to write her story her own way though, and that's what keeps it different from stories such as Vampire Diaries, Twilight, or even Vampire Night. And after introductions, Ko says something that makes badass Nezuna suddenly blush, which kinda reminds me of Ranma again. Sorry if I keep bringing up this manga to compare to others, I just think it's the perfecture of physical comedy. And although Nazuna won't admit she has feelings towards Ko, she does show territorial jealousy when anyone tries to touch him, and even kisses him in front of everyone before they leave. Just damn. My kind of punk romance. They stay ominous about another vampire that's supposed to be part of the group that shows up vaguely a few times in this volume. I almost wonder if she's going to become the villain of the next volume, seeing as how Nazuna views her tactics as something that should be off limits. Especially if Ko does tactics that'll force him to be in a life or death situation, Nazuna will definitely have no problem killing anyone that means him harm. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. In the next chapter, we sort of get a peek of what's going on in the daytime world, with Ko's friends who still haven't given up on society and growing up yet. I honestly don't have much to say about them. There's nothing wrong with Akira, and I enjoy when she's around. There's just a lot more in the rest of the volume I want to talk about. Alright, so next we got the date chapter. This might be my favorite of the volume. It's just perfect because everything that can go wrong does. First off, she says no right off the bat. The small banter involving some of my favorite dialogue of the volume, and you could truly feel her manic reaction as you read the lines. Then they go see a romantic movie. Nazuna, being the anti-romance, makes it for the perfect of cringe. Only for the dinner to barely get any panels after Ko asks Nazuna how she enjoyed the movie. We don't want to see the rest. We need hope as readers. What I enjoy about this chapter is you can feel all of Ko's stress. It's doomed to fail because it's not organic, something relatable for when people tried to turn friendships into relationships and failed miserably. Nazuna mentions that what they've been doing this time can be considered dating, which is an incredibly cute line. It shows that she's taken into account how the relationship has grown and what she already enjoys about it. A very cringe chapter with a cute ending. Represents the difference of the typical couple would do versus what our heroes are, which can be considered anti-couple if you would. Then we get what is probably closest we'll get to a festival chapter, unless New Year's or Summer is a volume or two down the corner. Lots of important beats are shown in this chapter. First, Ko's introvertedness comes into play. Not only does he hate crowds, but he goes out of his way in fears of being noticed by anyone in a sea of people that he buys a mask to hide, and is blown immediately by someone who he viewed as top-tier popularity who actually views Ko as a close friend, which shows how you never really truly know the people you affect. Typically, becoming a vampire represents death in a sense, and with his friend at death's door unknowingly dating a vampire, Ko is an unknowing arm reaching out to save him. Even though he too wants to become a vampire, Mahiru is blind to it all, and it's not his choice. I can see Nazuna and the other girl fighting next volume because Nazuna clearly has issues with their difference of vampire opinion, but the chapter ends with a cute hand-holding. And for our final arc of the volume, 4 chapters dedicated to Siri. Trying to talk about this arc without just going through the motions is definitely why it took a long time for me to finish this review. I've got to be honest, when writing, rewriting, rereading, and rewriting, this whole final 4 chapters is such a fucking headache to dissect. It's been a fucking month trying to review this volume. It's been so long that the 4th volume's about to come out soon, so yeah, I've been wrapping my head around this goddamn 4 final chapters, and when rewriting, I was like, wait, what about this going into context? It's just such a headache. But here we go. When overlooking these 4 chapters, there are plenty of ways to interpret and observe the cruelties of love. There's the obsession from both perspectives of Siri and Akiyama. One could almost see it as a temporary metaphor between author and work, feeling punished and tired of all the burdens and spotlighting that they'd be willing to end it all. Then there's Akiyama's description of love that goes into the whole aspect of both the point of being a vampire and the main plot of Ko trying to become one, and the conflict that Siri is currently facing. Because Siri is someone who is tired of the love skit, and she just wants a friend. And although it's against her very nature, she kept him a secret from the group of other vampires. One could theorize that she was jealous of Nazuna, being so brazen and not keeping her friendship with Ko a secret, which could even be why she was so upfront to both Ko and Nazuna when first meeting them. You also have the opposite parallel between the two couples. On one side, you have Nazuna and Ko, a working team that rely on each other and trust each other, even if it's not yet romantic love. Then you have Akiyama and Siri, 2 who have gone from a deep friendship to obsessor and potential murderer, all because of the demise of romantic love. And although there are good points to be made defending Akiyama, he still did stalk and try to bust a door down just because he was jealous. That's not trying to overread or theorize, that's just pointing out crazy. Anyway, it took me a long time to condense a lot of what you just heard into simple sentences. I had paragraphs that I wasn't satisfied with when I was reviewing those 4 chapters, and I just kept getting more in depth and more crazy, and then I would then read a few more pages and then go, wait a minute, what about this? And then what about that? And I'm just glad that's finally over. Nazuna has a really cute line about Ko's jealous in the end, again showing that she does take into account how his feelings and how serious she does look at their growing relationship. They don't go into any detail yet of how the transformation affects humans, even if it's not a type of vampire story. I thought there would be some change or even moment of passing out maybe, so I wonder exactly how it changes them. Maybe Akiyama will become a villain or something in the future to show the darker side of vampires. We've yet to meet any male vampires, so that's something to put account to maybe the next volume. This album was pretty much near perfection for me to read, and nerve-wracking to keep rereading. I blame Evangelion and all those literature classes. Anyway, the next volume is almost here. I'm about to review Don't Toy With Me Volume 7, Beyond Season 1, Mariko-chan Volume 2, and Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead Volume 1. For some Halloween theme to post in October, probably. Thanks for your patience to the few people who did want to hear what I had to say about this volume. I promise the next one will take even longer. So anyways, what'd you like about this volume? What did you dislike? There were enough changes to cause some pause for some of you, probably. Should the world expand or should it remain small? Do you want bigger arc stories or do you like its indie punk rock style? Leave a comment about what you think and go read a book.